Let me open with a question that stings a little. If AGI actually shows up in 5 to 10 years, how much of what your kid is learning in school today is still going to be worth anything? And the person asking this isn't some influencer. It is the DeepMind CEO who just won a Nobel Prize. Demis Hassabis. He says governments and school systems are basically covering their ears, hoping this whole wave just goes away on its own. But he says, this thing is absolutely not going away. I listened to the whole conversation start to finish, and I'm relaying it to you. Both people in this one carry serious weight. One is Hassabis, co-founder and CEO of DeepMind, the guy behind AlphaGo and AlphaFold, who picked up a Nobel Prize just last year. The other is Dame Wendy Hall, a pioneer of web science in Britain, who co-founded the Web Science Trust with the inventor of the World Wide Web, Tim Berners-Lee, and she is one of the most authoritative voices in UK AI governance. A closed-door conversation about a question every parent should care about. AI is here. What are schools supposed to do?
Disclosure first. Let me pin it down. Hassabis sells AI. DeepMind is his company. When he says AGI arrives in 5 to 10 years, that timeline points the same way as his business. Keep that in mind while you listen.
Thanks. Hall opened, and she gave her own country zero cover. She says, nearly a decade ago, the UK was one of the first countries in the world to put out a full national AI strategy. And back then, plenty of countries copied the British playbook straight. And then, a decade goes by. The AI skills champion role they set up back then, gone. The AI Council, also gone. The whole skills pipeline, shattered on the floor. The part that really stings, Singapore copied that same British strategy and actually executed it better. And they've already passed the UK in the rankings. And at the primary and secondary school level, almost nothing got done. She says, sorry to put it this bluntly, but that is just the reality. Hassabis picked it up even harder than she did. He says in AI, 10 years is like a century in any other field, maybe even 1,000 years. He watches his own kids use large models to do homework, cut corners, even cheat, while the schools keep pretending not to see it. So what is his fix? It comes down to 2 words. Flipped classroom. Meaning, take all the rote memorization basics and move them out of class, hand them off to a personalized AI tutor. It adapts to each kid's own pace. No more teaching to the class average, with one size fits all. And the time you free up, the most precious time in school, what do you do with it? You spend all of it practicing the things machines can't do. Dealing with people, building real projects together, creativity, judgment, and taste. His exact words, when AGI actually lands in 5 to 10 years, these are the core human abilities. And they're exactly what schools don't teach right now. He threw back a question too, and I thought it was sharp. Why should we expect every teacher in every school to deliver the same class with the same brilliance? He gave a more concrete picture too. The ideal classroom should be like Montessori on steroids. Or honestly, take that one-on-one Oxford and Cambridge tutoring and drop it into the everyday of a regular school. Not a teacher lecturing one way from the front, but a group gathered around a real project, really pushing on each other. You might ask, judgment, taste, isn't that all a little fuzzy? Not fuzzy at all. Down the road, AI will write for you, crunch the numbers for you, look things up for you. But which of these options is right? Which one has taste? That still takes a human to call. And that is exactly what schools barely train today. Flip it around, and it is scarier. If schools don't change, kids spend more than a decade drilling exactly the part AI is best at, the part that gets replaced first. And the part AI can't replace, they never seriously practiced for a single day. It is betting the most valuable time on the least valuable skills. After education, the conversation moved up a level. The host asked, a pointed one, letting big tech help write the regulations. Isn't that like turkeys voting for Christmas? Hassabis says it is the opposite. Nobody running these frontier labs wants a disaster. It is no good for anyone. The real trouble is the tragedy of the commons. There is always one player who wants to break the agreement and grab quick money, which is exactly why you need government to step in. The thing he worries about most is biorisk. The same AlphaFold that can cure disease can do serious damage if it lands in the wrong hands. And how the turning point came is kind of interesting. He says one of Anthropic's models spooked the banks. Once the banks got worried, the government woke up, and the recent shift in U.S. policy ties back to that.
Hall added a counterintuitive point. China is actually quite willing to step up inside international frameworks. Because like the West, they don't want AI blowing up into a disaster. And China leans more on open source model development, and in some ways is more open to international cooperation than the US government is.
Then, he said a line I still remember. He says the UK has the most expensive energy in the entire West. And that turns directly into the cost of intelligence. No exaggeration. This goes from watts to dollars to tokens.
This is the line most worth penning from the whole thing. Data centers are the new industrial base. What a unit of compute costs decides the shape of future industry. Whoever has cheap power has cheap intelligence. Energy isn't just the electric bill anymore. It is national power.
Following that, he gave a heads up to the UK and to every country that wants a seat at the table. Don't just aim to be the world champion of regulation. That gets you nowhere. You have to actually lead on the technology, have top companies and universities in hand before anyone will listen to you. He insists on keeping DeepMind's headquarters in London to be that anchor. The way Silicon Valley grew up back in the day on HP and Intel plus Stanford. On energy use, some people knock data centers for burning too much power, but he thinks that worry is overblown. He says, if we take the right path, AI will be the ultimate tool for cracking fusion, new materials, solar breakthroughs, and really solving the climate problem. Hall followed with something pretty counterintuitive. Down the line, people will be scrambling to have a data center in their own city, because it flips around and becomes a local producer of electricity and energy. Today you complain it eats power, tomorrow it might be the power plant on your doorstep. And between these two layers, education and energy. In the middle, there is one more chair, and it is yours. You're not a policymaker, you're just an ordinary parent. And your kid is sitting right now in that one-size-fits, all classroom built around the average. So what does this rhyme with in history? Let me give you 2 reference points. 1. The flipped classroom actually isn't new. It is like taking the Montessori of 100 years ago, or that one-on-one tutor system at Oxford and Cambridge, and using AI to move it back into the ordinary classroom. Old method, new engine. The other, that from watts to tokens line, sounds a lot like the Industrial Revolution. Back then, whoever had cheap coal and cheap power won, and now it is swapped for compute. He calls this exact moment the edge of a new renaissance. Either you use AI to rewrite the whole equation, or you keep grinding away for 1 or 2% of emissions cuts. Let me give you my take, and I'll keep it restrained. Whether AGI arrives in 5 years or 10, that is his bet. He has got skin in the game, so don't swallow it whole. But the direction of training kids on what machines can't do holds. No matter what day AGI shows up. This isn't betting on the future. This is the no-lows move. Over the next 2 years, I'm watching one very specific signal. When the first school or region actually dares to hand rote memorization to AI and spend class time only on judgment and collaboration. That day is the day education actually starts to turn. All right, that is where I'll wrap this round. Would you want your kid's school to move first or move last? Next round, I'll keep relaying it to you.